She had stopped dreaming. At 17, Ava Winters, the deaf daughter of a billionaire, walked through life as if she were invisible, surrounded by luxury but trapped in silence. No one had ever truly listened, not the endless stream of tutors, not the wealthy friends' children who only envied her, and certainly not her father, whose love was measured in gifts rather than words. She had tried everything: speech therapy, sign language, even music lessons, but the world outside still seemed deaf to her. She had lost hope of ever being understood or feeling truly alive. That was until a rainy afternoon when she stumbled into the city park, feeling the weight of her invisible cage more heavily than ever. She watched children play, their laughter slicing through the gloom like sunlight, reminding her of what she had lost. And then she saw him, Ethan Carter, a single dad with kind eyes and an easy smile, kneeling beside a little boy who was struggling to ride a bicycle. He didn't notice her at first, but when he did, his gaze lingered not with curiosity or judgment, but with quiet understanding. Something about him made her heart stir in a way she hadn't felt in years. "You look like you need help," he whispered, kneeling down to her level, as if he could see through the wall she had built. Ava froze, unsure if he even knew she couldn't hear him, but there was a sincerity in his expression that made her nod. "I'll help you," he said, and for the first time in forever, she felt a flicker of hope. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed again and again. Ethan was patient, teaching her to communicate in ways she hadn't tried, showing her that the world didn't have to be as isolating as it felt. He brought his son along sometimes, and watching them together, so effortlessly connected, taught Ava something she had forgotten: connection wasn't about perfect words, it was about presence. But it wasn't easy. Ava struggled with trust, with frustration, with the bitterness of years spent feeling unseen. She often pushed Ethan away, questioning why he cared, why someone without riches or status would bother with her. Each time, he simply smiled and said, "I'm not going anywhere." A turning point came one evening when a misstep during a skating lesson left Ava bruised and embarrassed in front of a crowd. She wanted to disappear, to retreat back into her cocoon of silence, but Ethan's hand on her shoulder, steady and reassuring, reminded her she wasn't alone. He didn't speak over her, didn't pity her, he simply showed her that mistakes didn't define her worth. And for the first time, she began to believe it herself. By the end of the summer, Ava's world had shifted. She still couldn't hear, and she never would, but her life was no longer a silent prison. She had learned new ways to express herself, to connect, to laugh and cry without fear of judgment. More than that, she had discovered something priceless: that love and understanding could transcend every barrier. Ethan had not only helped her find her voice in the world but had also taught her that hope was never truly lost. Sometimes it just needed a gentle whisper to be found, and then came the moment that changed everything. Ava stood at the edge of the park, watching Ethan help his son onto the bicycle again. She signed the words slowly, carefully, to him: "Thank you, for everything." Ethan's eyes softened, and he nodded. No words were needed, their bond had become something beyond speech. In that instant, Ava realized she was no longer the millionaire's lost daughter. She was simply Ava, a young woman who had discovered courage, resilience, and the kind of love that could heal even the deepest wounds. Chapter 2 opened months later with Ava taking her first steps into the world she had once feared. Her father had begun to notice the change too, but it was subtle. He watched as she laughed, spoke through signs, and even taught younger children at a school for the hearing impaired. She had become a bridge for others, showing them that limitations could be transformed into strength. And through it all, Ethan remained by her side, not as a savior, but as a companion in life's journey, teaching her that support doesn't demand perfection, it demands presence. Ava faced challenges still: society's assumptions, moments of self-doubt, and the occasional pang of loneliness, but she met each one differently now. When an old friend mocked her efforts to connect with the world, she didn't retreat. She smiled, signing her response confidently: "I am stronger than you think." When her father tried to impose his ideas of perfection, she gently refused, showing him that true wealth was measured not in money but in love, compassion, and connection. The story reached its climax when Ava was invited to speak at an international conference for inclusivity. Standing on the stage, surrounded by people who had come to learn from her, she felt the nerves that had once paralyzed her, but also the calm assurance that she was ready. She looked for Ethan in the crowd, and when she found him, his encouraging smile reminded her of the man who had once whispered a simple promise: "I'll help you." That promise had become the foundation for her life. Ava began her presentation, signing with grace and confidence, translating her experiences into a language the world could understand. Tears filled the audience's eyes as they watched her story unfold, not just of struggle, but of triumph, of hope restored by compassion and determination. And in that moment, Ava realized that life's greatest gifts weren't given, they were nurtured. They were the whispers, the guiding hands, the small acts of kindness that changed everything. By the end, Ava's journey had come full circle. She had lost hope, found it again in the unlikeliest of places, and turned her pain into a beacon for others. And Ethan? He watched quietly, proud but humble, knowing that his simple act of belief had sparked something far greater than either of them could have imagined. The story closed not with an ending, but with a beginning. Ava stepping forward into the world, empowered, unafraid, and surrounded by love that didn't need words to be felt. She had learned the most important lesson of all: even when life seems silent, hope can speak, and when someone believes in you, it can change your entire world.